Get out. This land is under our control now. That's what she screamed at me, yeah, right there in the middle of nowhere, Texas, the kind of silence that can swallow you whole. I slammed on the brakes. Dust just exploded around my old truck. And I'm sitting there staring at a fake cop blocking my family's ranch gate, pointing at me like I'm some two-bit outlaw. Her badge catches the sun, her radio spits out static, and she's got a whole stack of official papers clutched in her fist. You have no authority here anymore, Sullivan. And the real kicker. She knew my name. Let me back up a sec, because you need to understand she knew my family too, but I'd never laid eyes on her before. So how in the world did strangers end up taking over our ranch? What gave them the right to shut me out of my own property? I'll tell you what, it felt like a bad dream. One you can't quite shake, even when you're wide awake. I'm Garrett Sullivan. Been working Texas dirt for most of my 40 years. Nothing fancy, but enough to keep boots on my feet, denim on my back, and cattle in my pastures. My own spread is about 50 miles east. Modest but honest work. The ranch this woman was screaming about, that's been Sullivan family land since 1955, when my grandparents bought 200 acres with everything they had. 2 months since I'd been there last time was after Mom's funeral left Dad to manage things on his own. Guilt's been eating me alive, let me tell you. That drive down County Road 127 was supposed to be peaceful, just a son checking in on his old man. But when I got there, our entrance was blocked by a shiny new metal gate that hadn't existed last time I visited. Parked across the road, a white SUV with Morrison Hills HOA Enforcement Division plastered on the side. And there she was, the woman with the scream, straightening her uniform and adjusting that radio like she belonged in some big city police department. I'll give her this everything about her, screamed official. Badge. Clipboard thick with paperwork. She moved with the kind of confidence you only get from pushing people around. Sir, this property is now under HOA jurisdiction, she announced, all cold and businesslike. You can't proceed without proper authorization. But I stepped out, heart-thumping keys digging into my palm. Ma'am, this is the Sullivan family ranch. My father, Warren Sullivan, owns this land. My voice was steady. Don't ask me how, but I could feel panic rising. Not according to our records. I'm Officer Diane Calloway, Morrison Hills, HOA Enforcement Division. She flips through her clipboard with a little smirk. The land was incorporated into HOA boundaries last month through the Rural Community Development Enhancement Act. Your property falls under our code enforcement. Now these documents, she flashed county letterhead legal stamp signatures. They looked legit. Would have fooled anybody, not paying close attention. I tried to laugh it off, told her, this is ranch land, not a subdivision. But the pieces started falling together. The county's been pushing development like crazy, wanting more tax money as the city sprawls outward. Someone could have filed fake papers, claimed we're suddenly part of this new rural HOA. Callaway Keys, her radio dispatch, we have an unauthorized visitor. The static on the other end didn't even sound real. Then another white SUV rolls up, a second officer climbs out, gear jangling. Everything under control, Chief, he asks. They were waiting for me. They knew my name, had the paperwork, the whole setup. This wasn't random. It was planned. Mr. Sullivan seems confused about the new jurisdiction guidelines, Calloway says, like she's rehearsed the line. How long had they been planning this? How many other families were they running this scam on? You're currently trespassing on HOA-controlled property. Fines start at $500. She's clicking her pen like she's ready to ticket me for existing. I looked past her, up toward the house I grew up in, wondered if Dad was sitting on the porch wondering why his own son couldn't come home. My grip tightened on the truck keys. I've been coming here since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, I muttered, voice low, dangerous. But now doubt was gnawing at me. How did our land become HOA territory overnight? And the way she smiled at my confusion, but that was all the answer I needed. This wasn't authority. This was a con. And my family was the target. I left with my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. That 50-mile drive back home felt like 100 every mile, giving me more time to stew. By the time I pulled into my own place barn, cattle, all that I'd built myself, one thing was clear. Something stank in Morrison Hills. First thing I did was kick off my boots in the kitchen, fired up my laptop. Morrison Hills HOA. I typed it in like a curse. What came up made my blood run cold. A slick website stock photos of happy families, big banner about community standards, and right there a photo of our family ranch aerial shot and everything. I never gave anybody permission to take that picture. Established to bring modern standards to rural properties in the Houston expansion zone. Services listed: code enforcement, property compliance, community safety. But here's the thing, the website domain was only 3 weeks old. Not 3 years, not even 3 months, 3 weeks right before they showed up at our gate. So I called the county clerk's office. Ma'am, I need to verify incorporation papers for Morrison Hills HOA. Long pause. Sir, I'm showing no filing for any Morrison Hills HOA in our database. She double-checked. No articles of incorporation, no covenants. Nothing in Harris County or any neighboring county. Now my hands are shaking. They're operating with zero legal foundation. But when I searched the property deed records, things got weirder. Our land was still legally Dad's. No transfers, no liens, nothing in 12 months. Legally, Morrison Hills HOA didn't exist and had no authority over anything. That's when my phone rang Dad's number. Son, his voice was shaky, scared. They said our land is under their control now. I felt like the world dropped out from under me. I asked him what happened. Badge's uniform said I needed permits for our cattle operation now that we're part of some HOA district. Had paperwork with stamps and all. They said if I didn't comply, they'd fine me $200 a day. He sounded older on the phone than he ever had. They knew about your mom's passing, knew you hadn't been around much, knew when the taxes were due. These people had done their homework, targeted Dad at his lowest. I should have been there. I should have protected him. I spent the next hour reading up on HOA fraud. Turns out fake HOAs are all over Texas, especially where cities are sprawling into farmland. The scam: intimidate with fake documents, get fees, or pressure people to sell cheap. Then developers come in and snatch up land. Usually they target older folks living alone, easy prey. It's elegant in a twisted way. Completely illegal. My phone buzzed with a text. Mr. Sullivan, you have 24 hours to contact Morrison Hills HOA regarding outstanding compliance violations. Signed, Officer Calloway. Now they had my cell number, no way I'd given it to them. This was planned. That night I prepped like I was going to war. Cleaned my truck, loaded up every document proving our ownership, set my phone to record. I was done being intimidated. I'd let them show their hand, dig their own grave with lies. Next morning, I rolled up to the family ranch, ready for a showdown. Same white SUVs, same fake officers. This time, I wasn't rattled. Afternoon, folks. I called, tipping my hat. Mind if I see that court order you mentioned? I leaned on my tailgate, casual as you please. Calloway's mask slipped a little. We don't need court orders for administrative HOA expansion. The Rural Community Act allows for streamlined incorporation. I pulled out my phone, hit record. Well, that's funny because the county says you don't exist. No incorporation, no nothing. The young guy looked nervous, hand twitching toward his radio. Calloway's eyes flashed surprise, then she tried to cover it. Our paperwork is in process with multiple agencies. These things take time. I laughed. Ma'am, that's the biggest load of bull I've heard since my neighbor's goat got into the moonshine. I stood up, made sure I filled up the space. There's no Morrison Hills HOA because you made it up. You got no more legal authority over this land than my dog. Her muscle moved forward, all tough guy body language. Sir, you need to calm down. Hostile behavior is a citable offense. I cut him off. Investigation of what exactly? This land belongs to Warren Sullivan. Always has. Never been under HOA anything. I held up deeds clerk confirmations, tax records, proof that we were the only legal owners. That's when Calloway lost her cool. Mr. Sullivan, you're in violation of multiple ordinances, unauthorized entry, harassment of enforcement personnel, failure to comply. She started writing a citation, waving it like a weapon. This carries a $500 fine plus administrative costs. My anger shifted to something colder, deadlier. You can write all the fake citations you want, but they're worth less than cow manure on a hot day. I stepped closer. And if you think you'll arrest me for standing on my own land, you'd better think about what happens to people impersonating law enforcement in Texas. Her radio crackled. She called for backup, but her voice wasn't confident anymore. I leaned against my truck and waited. They could back down or double down and risk the feds getting involved. Either way, their little act was over. I drove straight to the county courthouse, time to call in the professionals. I hired a private investigator, a real pro. Within 2 days, she had the dirt. Calloway had a record-fired mall cop convicted for fraud, specializes in scamming the elderly. Her crew, one's got an assault conviction, another's a document forger, 2 more handle the tech side. They ran their fake HOA out of a strip mall office, complete with a fake badge factory and databases tracking at least 15 elderly property owners. This was organized predation. They'd pressure folks until they either paid fees or sold their land way below market value, then developers would move in. Turns out Dad's ranch was their big score prime land, elderly owner, recent death in the family. They'd researched us, waited for me to be out of the picture, then moved in for the kill. The investigator found a recording of Calloway discussing how to break Dad down, how much pressure to apply, how to force a sale within 60 days. That was it. I called the feds. They took one listen to the evidence and launched an investigation, possible RICO charges, conspiracy, the works. They wanted me to wear a wire, get a confession on tape. I agreed. Some things are worth fighting for. Wearing that wire, I drove back to the ranch. The plan was simple: offer to pay the fees, get them to admit it was all a scam. But Calloway had gotten desperate. Instead of playing bureaucrat, she went full-on criminal. Her crew surrounded my truck, talking arrest, trying to drag me out. This wasn't a con anymore, it was a kidnapping. They hauled me off to their enforcement facility, an abandoned warehouse, and you know what? Their arrogance did them in. Calloway started bragging about their operation, how they'd processed 14 properties in the last 18 months, $4 million in acquisitions, all targeting the elderly. The wire got it all. They talked about expanding, about treating old folks like cattle to be processed. My escape was pure luck. I slipped away while they were distracted, raced back to the ranch, called Dad. He was okay, thank God, but the criminals had shown up again looking for me. The FBI moved in, arrested Calloway's team, raided their warehouse, and nabbed their development partners. All at once, the whole house of cards collapsed. Turns out they'd targeted 47 families, stolen over $800,000, were expanding into other states. Federal charges: fraud, impersonating officers, elder abuse, wire fraud, money laundering, racketeering, real justice. But the best part, watching Dad standing tall again, shaking hands with the feds, seeing him realize he'd been the victim of criminals, not some foolish old man. The FBI helped connect all the victimized families. We became a community, helped each other heal, shared what we learned so no one else would get caught like this again. 6 months later, I was in a packed federal courthouse, boots polished, suit pressed, watching Calloway and her crew get hammered with guilty verdicts. The jury didn't need long, how could they? With all that evidence, Calloway got 12 years. Her crew, 5 to 8 developers prosecuted too. Judge Hernandez said it best: the defendants exploited the most fundamental American right, property ownership, by terrorizing elderly citizens with fake authority. Federal law, she said, exists to protect the vulnerable from organized predation. And that's exactly what happened. Our land was safe. Dad could sleep easy. Restitution money restored what was stolen. Families got their property back. Folks like Mrs. Henderson, an 82-year-old, who wrote to say her grandkids could ride horses on the land she'd fought for, had their lives returned. I started working with law enforcement to educate rural communities about these schemes. One year after it all began, I drove through our ranch gates. No barriers, no fake authority, just sun on pasture, dad on the porch in his old hat, and the peace that comes from knowing justice can win if you don't back down. You know what my dad said? Rocking on that porch, evil folks count on good people being too intimidated to fight back. But they didn't count on Sullivan's stubbornness. That's the truth. This land remembers who belongs and who fought to keep it safe. So let me ask you, what would you do if criminals came for your family's heritage? Ever dealt with fake authority or been pressured to give up what's yours? Tell me down in the comments. Let's talk about what's right, what's wrong, and why some things are always worth fighting for.